Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet this sunflower crochet top. Now before we begin, I want to let you know that this video in itself is not necessarily beginner friendly, only because I speed through parts of it, but those parts that I speed through, I have dedicated beginner friendly videos on how to crochet those pieces. So you can go to those tutorials and then come back to this one. And the reason I did that is because if I didn't do that, this video would have been over an hour and 25 minutes long, and that's just insane, and I don't think my voice would be able to handle it, or my computer would be able to handle it. But yeah, if you find that at any point in this tutorial I went too fast for you, I do have those dedicated beginner-friendly videos linked in the description box below, so you can go ahead and check those out and then come back to this tutorial. For example, I do kind of go quickly on how to make a cup, and I do have a dedicated video on how to make crochet cups, and I just posted a video on how to crochet the sunflower granny squares, so if I go too fast in this video, I do have a slower, much more beginner friendly version linked in the description box below, so you can go ahead and check that out and then come back to this video. Alrighty then, let's get started. For this project, I'm using size 4 yarn from the brand Impeccable, as well as a size 5mm hook. And to start off this top, we're going to begin with making the cups. And in order to make the cups, you're going to create a slip knot and then chain 10. Now again, because I've made cups so many times on my channel, and I have a fully dedicated video on how to crochet a cup for beginners, I'm going to go through this rather quickly. Okay, so after you've chained 10, you're going to go back on that chain using a single crochet. And once you have gone back on that chain fully, making sure that you've gone into every single stitch till the very end, then at the very end of the row, you're going to chain 1, then flip the project over and go back on that chain using a single crochet. Now it is very important that you actually go into the very first stitch once you start the new row, because a lot of people always comment on my videos that have this portion of the crochet top tutorial where they're making the cups, and they say that their cups always curve at the bottom. Well, it's usually because they're not going into the very first stitch at the bottom of the row. And what I mean by bottom of the row is, instead of working horizontally as normal, we're now going to work vertically like this to make a triangle. So now this part is going to be the top, and because it's the top and we're trying to make it triangular, we're going to find the middle stitch here and create 3 single crochets in that middle stitch. And what that's going to do is that's going to start making a point. So every time you reach this portion of the project, you're going to create 3 single crochets in the middle stitch. So from here, we're going to single crochet our way down this side now. And once we have completed this row, we're going to do the same thing as we did on the other side, but let me show you. So again, you're just going to be single crocheting down this entire row to the very bottom, making sure that you go into the very last stitch because that is important, and then you're going to chain 1, flip the project over, and then go back into the very first stitch of the new row. And then you're just going to single crochet your way up the project to the point, and once you reach the point, you're again going to create 3 single crochets inside of 1 stitch, and that 1 stitch is going to be the middle stitch. So I'm approaching the middle stitch right now, and this is the middle stitch right here. So I'm going to create 3 single crochets inside of that 1 stitch to continue the point shape, because again we want to make this triangular, and that's going to start making it look triangular. And that's basically the pattern. So I'm just going to single crochet my way down, chain 1, single crochet my way back up, then create 3 single crochets in the middle stitch, then single crochet my way back down, chain 1, then single crochet my way up, make 3 single crochets in one point, and then down, chain 1, and so on and so forth until the project keeps growing and growing. And once I put the project against myself, I like the coverage. And once I do, I detach the yarn from the yarn ball and create another cup the exact same way, the exact same size, and then attach them together with a slip stitch in the center. Now again, if that tutorial was a bit too fast for you or really fast for you, I do have a dedicated video on how to crochet a cup, which also comes with a blog post that also has a lot of detail on how to crochet cups and attach them together, so you can go ahead and check that out and then come back to this video. Okay, so for the rest of the project, you're also going to need black yarn and yellow yarn for the sunflowers, and you already have the main color of your top. Mine is burgundy, so yeah, total of 3 different colors for this project. And the first thing you're going to do to create the sunflower granny square is make a slip knot, and after you've made a slip knot, you're going to chain 5, and after you have chained 5, you're going to go into the very first chain that you just created and then slip stitch into it, and that's going to create a little hole. And once you've created that little hole, you're going to make 12 double crochets inside that little hole. So within the same opening, you're going to crochet 12 double crochets, one right after another. And once you have crocheted a total of 12 double crochets inside of that one opening, then you're going to be done with the black yarn or whatever yarn that you decide you want to use for the center portion of the flower. So now that I have created a total of 12 double crochets inside of that one opening, I am going to now complete the row by slip stitching into the very first double crochet that I created for that row. And after I've slip stitched into that stitch, then I am going to attach my new color, which is yellow. So I'm going to grab my yellow yarn and attach it as I normally do, which is actually really complicated for me to explain, but hopefully by you watching it, you can have an idea of what I do to attach a new color. I basically just put the old color and the new color on my hook and then crochet with them both. And then eventually the old color fades out and the new color is there and it's attached, and that's what I do. So anyway, after you've attached the new color, you're going to chain 3 and then yarn over and then go through the stitch, then yarn over again, go back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, and then just leave it as is. And then again, you're going to yarn over, go through the same stitch, then yarn over, go through 1 loop, then yarn over, go through 2 loops, and then just leave it as is. And you're going to do this until you have 4 loops on your hook, and once you do, you're just going to bring the yarn through all of those loops to make one little cluster. And after you've created a cluster, you're going to chain 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, go back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, and then just leave it as is. Then in the same stitch, you're going to do the same thing over again, and then one more time, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, and then you have 4 loops on your hook, so you're just going to bring it through all of them, and that's how you make the petals. And after you have completed 12 of these, then we're going to move on to the next step. So from here again, you're going to chain 2, and then yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, go back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, and then do that 2 more times inside of the same stitch, and then just continue with the pattern. And again, I know that was super duper fast if you've never seen the sunflower crochet granny square tutorial that I posted, But if you've already seen it, then you really don't even need to be watching it. But again, if that was way too fast for you, I do have a dedicated video on how to crochet sunflower granny squares that will be linked in the description box below. So please, again, go ahead and watch that and then come back to this video so you can learn how I attached everything together and made this crochet top. Okay, so I have a total of 12 petals here. So I am done with this row, and in order to complete it, I am going to slip stitch into the very first stitch that I made for the row. And after I did that, it was time to cut the yarn from the yarn ball and attach my new color, which is going to be the same color as the rest of my top. And in this case, it is burgundy. Again, you can choose whatever colors you want. So this is where you attach the third color, and you could attach it any way you want as well. This is just how I attach it. I put both colors on my hook and then just crochet with it until only the new color emerges. And again, you're going to start off by chaining 3 and then going into the very first opening and creating 3 double crochets all in that same opening. And what I mean by opening is when you're making the petals and chaining 2 in between each petal, you left a little opening in between the chain 2. So whenever you come across those openings, you're going to create clusters of double crochet. So right now I'm making a corner. So a corner consists of 1 cluster of 3 double crochets all in a row, and then after you've created that cluster, you're going to chain 3 in between, and then you're going to create another cluster of 3 double crochets all within the same space. And then after you've created that corner, you're going to go into the next opening, and then you're going to create another cluster of double crochets. And a cluster of double crochets consists of 3 double crochets all in one sitting. And then after you've done that, you're going to move on to the next opening and create another cluster of double crochets. So 3 double crochets in a row inside of that one opening. And then in the next opening, you're actually going to make another corner. So you're going to make 3 double crochets within that same opening. And then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to create 3 more double crochets right after that. So this is double crochet number 2 and double crochet number 3 to complete 1 cluster of double crochets, and that's another corner for you for this granny square. So you're just going to repeat that until you reach the very end. And once you reach the very end, you're going to complete that row by slip stitching into the very first stitch that you made, and then cutting the yarn from the yarn ball and bringing the excess yarn through the last loop, giving it a tug, and then cutting off the excess. And after you've done that, then you have completed 1 granny square with a sunflower design. And now you're going to have to make at least 5 more. So you're just going to repeat the process and make as many as you need in order to wrap around your body and cover your torso. For me, I made a total of 7 granny squares, so depending on your size, you may need to make more or less granny squares in order to have it wrap around your body. But yeah, just find how many you need to make and then make them all. And after you have made them all, it's time to attach everything together and form a crochet top. So we're going to grab the cups that we made earlier and bring them into the picture. Now, there was probably an easier method of attaching everything. Like, I probably should have attached all the granny squares together and then attached it to the cups. But I really wanted to make sure that the most perfect sunflower granny square that I made was right in the center, and then all of the other ones were just out there. And I felt that if I had attached all of the granny squares together, it would have been a little bit more difficult for me to center it. So instead, I attached all of the granny squares to the cups individually. But again, you could attach all of the granny squares together to form one line of granny squares and then attach that to the cups instead of doing the much more complicated version that I'm doing. So again, I really want this beautiful sunflower granny square to be right in the center because this was the one that came out the prettiest out of all of them. So I wanted to make sure it was in the middle for everyone to see that that one was the best. And basically what I did is I measured out where the center was, and then I attached the granny square using a slip stitch. So I grabbed the burgundy yarn so the stitching could blend together with the rest of the top and not show that everything was attached with this yarn. And then I just slip stitched through the bottom of the cups and through the top of the granny square for a seamless transition. So yeah, I just went along the bottom of the cups and the top of the granny square, and I slip stitched all the way down until it was attached and nice and centered. And at first it did kind of poof out a little bit once I attached it, and I was kind of worried, but once I attached the rest of the granny squares, the poofiness went away. So if that happens to you too, no worries, just attach the rest of your granny squares and you should be fine. Okay, so again, if you're doing it the more complicated way like I am, after you've attached your first granny square, you're going to go ahead and grab your second granny square and attach it to the first granny square that you have already attached to the bottom of the cups. So you're going to start where you left off and then slip stitch into the corner stitch of the second granny square, and then you're going to work your way down by slip stitching into both of the sunflower granny squares that are right next to each other. So make sure that you go into the corresponding stitch of one sunflower granny square into the next, that way it is attached nice and even. So yeah, just continue slip stitching your way down the two granny squares until you've reached the bottom and they are attached. Now I am not a fan of detaching the yarn from the yarn ball if I don't have to. So once I reached the bottom of the granny squares and they are attached, I just slip stitched my way back up to where I had started. But you don't have to do that. You could just detach the yarn from the yarn ball and then reattach it where you want to start. So once I reached the bottom of the two granny squares and they are nice and attached, I just slip stitch my way back up. But again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And after I've made my way back up where I originally attached the second sunflower granny square, I am going to slip stitch across the top of the sunflower granny square so that it is now attached to the bottom of the cups. So this is what it looks like when just the two granny squares are attached. And now it's time to attach the second granny square to the cups, and I'm going to do that the exact same way as I did the first granny square by simply slip stitching my way across the top of the granny square and the bottom of the cup. And after I have slip stitched my way all across the granny square, I'm going to go ahead and grab my third granny square and do the exact same thing. So first I'm going to attach the two granny squares together from the sides, and then I'm going to attach the top to the bottom portion of the cups. But as you can see, only half of it is going to be attached to the bottom portion of the cups, and that is okay, because they will all be connected to one another and all hold each other up. So not every single piece of every single granny square needs to be attached to the cups. So again, I'm going to attach the corner piece of the granny square to the bottom portion of the cup, and then I'm going to slip stitch along the sides of the granny squares so that they are attached, and then I'm going to slip stitch my way back up to the cup and then attach the granny square to the bottom portion of the cups with slip stitch, and I'm only going to make it halfway across the granny square until I have reached the end of the cups, and that is okay because it's still going to be able to support another granny square so it could fully wrap around my body. So once I have slip stitched my way all across the bottom of the cups, then I was done attaching that granny square, and the project looked something like this. And now I just need to attach one more granny square to that side, and since there's no more crochet cup to work with, I'm just going to attach the fourth granny square on the side right here, and then I'm done with that side, and I'm going to repeat the exact same process on the other side. So again, to attach this fourth granny square, I am simply going to grab my yarn and slip stitch through the sides of both of the granny squares until I reach the bottom. And since this is the last granny square I'm going to be attaching on this side, instead of slip stitching my way back up again, I'm simply going to detach the yarn from the yarn ball and then start attaching all of the other granny squares on the other side using the exact same method. So as you can tell, making this crochet top is very tedious, but in the end it comes out looking very cute, and I think it's definitely worth it. So after you've finally attached all of the sunflower crochet granny squares together, the project should look something like this, and once they're all together, it's time to make the straps. Now, you definitely do not need to do this. This is something that I just do just because it makes me feel better, but I'm actually going to single crochet my way all across the bottom of the top to each point of the cup, and after I reach each point of the cup, I'm going to make a very long strap of 150 chains. And then after I've made each strap and crocheted my way all across the top right back to where I started, then I am completely done with the top finally. And again, you do not have to do this. You could just attach the yarn to each point of the cup and make your straps like that and save you this time. But the reason I like single crocheting my way all across the top is to make everything a little bit more even, because as you can see at the bottom, it's a little bit uneven and not as crisp as it would be if you made a row of single crochet all across the top. But again, this top is very tedious and time consuming to make, so if you're just done and you don't want to do this step, you really don't have to. So yeah, that's just what I'm doing because I like having a crisp row of single crochet lining my entire top, just so that everything is a little bit more even. And yeah, so I'm going to single crochet all across the bottom of the top here, and after that I'm going to make my way over to my very first cup. And once I reach the top portion of the cup, I'm going to chain 150 chains. And the reason why the strap needs to be so long is because it's not only going to serve as a neck strap, but it's also going to cross your back and then form a sort of corset style and tie to the back. So that's why it needs to be so long. Now, I'm normally a size small or even extra small, so I just chain 150, but again, everyone is going to be different. So if you are smaller than me or larger than me, then you may need to make more or less chains. But after you have chained as many chains as you need to make your strap, you're going to go back on that chain with a slip stitch. And the reason I do this is to make the strap a little bit thicker, sturdier, and then also because it's thicker, it won't dig into your skin as much. I've noticed that if I were to make a strap that's just a chain, because it's so thin, it likes to dig into my skin. I don't know if anyone else experiences the same thing, but that's another reason why I go back on that chain and slip stitch into it. Plus, I get to go back without detaching the yarn from the yarn ball, which is my favorite thing. So yeah, after I've slip stitched all the way down the chain and I made it back to the top of the cup, I'm just going to continue single crocheting my way down the cup and up the second cup to the other point, and then I'm going to make another strap the exact same way, and then single crochet my way back to the point where I started this row of single crochet. So it's going to go full circle. So after I finished with the straps, I was completely done with the crochet portion of this top, and all that's left to do is attach the straps to the back portion of the top. So you're going to grab one strap and one granny square, and you're going to bring the strap over to the opposite side and attach it to the top portion of the granny square, and then you're going to bring the strap over to the opposite side again and attach it to the middle portion of the granny square, and then you're going to bring it over to the opposite side one last time and attach it to the bottom portion of that granny square. And after you've attached it to that side, then you are completely done attaching one of the straps. So you're going to grab the other strap and do the exact same thing, just opposite. So you're going to bring it over to the opposite side and attach it to the top portion of one of the granny squares. And then once you have brought it through that top portion of the granny square, you're going to bring it over to the opposite side and attach it to the next granny square in the middle, and then you're going to bring it over one last time and attach it to the bottom portion of that granny square and bring it on through. And after you've brought it on through, then you are done attaching the straps, and now you have a lovely crisscross, slightly corset style strap situation going on, and it's gonna look super cute when it's on. And after you've done that, then you are completely done with the top. Finally, my goodness gracious. And it's gonna look super cute, so that's exciting. Now it's time for you to style it, rock it, wear it to Coachella or any other spring festival, or to the beach, or wherever you like. So that's really exciting. Alrighty then, that's it. Congratulations on creating your new crochet top. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up. I know that there were many points where I went really fast and I just directed you to other crochet tutorials, but it was honestly the best way for me to make this tutorial, because otherwise this video would have been literally 1 hour long, and I don't think my heart could take voicing over a 1 hour worth of content. So that's why I split it up into 2 other crochet tutorials, and I sped through how to make a crochet cup as well as how to make the granny squares. But again, I hope you enjoyed those videos and you enjoyed this video, and your crochet top comes out beautiful and you love it. And yeah, if you do enjoy free crochet tutorials, please check out the rest of my channel. I have so many other tutorials available for you, which are a lot more beginner friendly and slower and shorter. So yeah, go ahead and check out the rest of my channel. If you enjoyed this video, found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please give it a big thumbs up before you go, and also don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye!